Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the shop. Alright, so I started working on, if you will recall, the last video, I said about how I have my TRW here running and riding, but the brakes were non-existent, front or rear. They literally barely even wanted to slow you down. So as you can see, the rear wheel was removed. Right now it's kind of a pain to get that all taken apart. You have this bracket you have to remove. There's another bracket that separates these two bag holders. You got to get rid of the one bag so you can get to all the nuts and bolts on the back sides of these supports. You take off two bolts to remove the rear fender half. Then you can get the rear wheel out. Separate the chain, undo your brake rod, and then you can get the wheel out. So upon removing the wheel, what I thought would be the case was the case. You can see it a little bit here because I haven't totally cleaned this up. So militaries like to coat everything in this real thick cosmoline grease. It's a good preservative, nothing rusts, but it's very thick and kind of a pain to remove. And since this bike was never really on the road, nobody had ever taken everything apart and removed all this cosmoline grease. So the brake shoes, the brake drum were all coated in this nasty, thick cosmoline-like grease. So being that this bike is, I don't know, 70 years old, the grease has pretty much thoroughly embedded itself in these brake shoes. And I didn't really want to try risking that I can make them work again. So I went ahead and got new brake shoes. They were cheap, they were like 25 bucks, so way easier to, since it's already apart, just put new shoes in it, then have to take the rear end all apart again. So I'm sure that's also the problem with the front brakes. But if I can at least get the rear brake working for now, I won't feel as bad taking it on a little ride. I said this bike only has 60 miles on it when I got it. I'll never put a lot of miles on it. I might take it to a show once in a while. So as long as I have a working rear brake, I can take it for a couple spins around the back roads here. So I got my new brake shoes. These are them that I can put in. I'm going to put in that drum. The way this works, so of course here you have your cam. This is your cam, this is your stationary pin. This part here on your new brake shoes, let me get that in there. This is the steel piece. Okay, this is not. Let me show you here. So if you see, that's the steel piece because the magnet sticks to it. This is not. Okay, you want your steel piece to go against the stationary pin. Okay, these are directional. If you'll notice, there is more of a gap at the bottom than there is at the top, which you want that to go with the direction of the wheel travel. So the metal piece goes against a steel piece goes against a stationary pin. So these can be a little bit tricky to take off and on. I'm going to take these old shoes off. I'm going to clean all the cosmoline grease out from inside of this backing plate. I'm going to double check and clean this all again with some trusty good brake cleaner stuff that I use. Seems to melt that cosmoline off pretty good. I'll put my new shoes on, and then we should be ready to put this rear end back together again and maybe have some functioning rear brakes. So here we go. We'll take these rear shoes off here. The easiest way to try to do these is to try to twist them up. Of course, these things have been stuck on here for so long. Let me get some gloves on so I don't hurt myself here, because they'll fly up and pinch your fingers if you're not careful. So what you want to try to do is lever one of these up if you can. And it can be quite a pain in the butt to do. I might have to put it in a vise. See if I can lever these up off of here. You don't want to bend this backing plate all up. Oh man, they are on there. Let me shut the camera off for now, and I'll bring you back when I get these things moving. All right, here we go, guys. I got the brake shoe broke loose. It was just so that old nasty grease gets so sticky. So you lever one side up, you know, get the springs to come with it like this, and then you can see how stuck it is. All right, and there's your brake shoes removed. Don't lose your springs. I probably should have ordered some new springs, but I didn't. These will be fine. Okay, just get this out of my way. One thing you can see, this is the original style. See how they have a semicircle cut into them to fit around the pivot pin, or I'm sorry, stationary pin. The new ones don't do that anymore. And these were like, didn't matter where you put them, because they were basically the same shoe for both sides, whereas the new ones, it matters where they go. So I'm going to clean this backing plate up a little bit, get rid of the rest of that cosmoline grease, get this all cleaned up, clean that one more time, and then we'll fit the new shoes. We'll put this all back together, and then we'll put the rear tire back in the bike, and see if we have rear brakes now that work. Okay, and when I get this all cleaned up, I'll bring you back and show you how to put the new shoes on. Basically do it the same way. You get them in there and then kind of lever them down with the springs already on. So I'll bring you back and show you that then. All right, see you soon. All right, welcome back, guys. So I got my brake plate all cleaned up. And what I like to do is I use some of this synthetic brake grease here and a little acid brush. And I like to put a little bit of grease on these areas where the brake shoes will ride, okay? Especially this one. This is the one that will move a lot, because that's what expands your brakes. And that's the stationary pin. Then what you do is you put your springs on your new brake shoes. Let's see if I can do this on camera. Get them sort of started, because you can't get the springs on afterwards. People have tried that. I've tried it. And then you slowly work them down. There you go. Get them on the edge. Fold it over. There you go. There. Now, make sure your hands are clean when you do this. You don't want to get a bunch of grease on your new shoes, or else, again, you will render your shoes inoperative. Okay? So, kind of get these centered. Now, when we put these back on, when we put the wheel back on, before we actually tighten up that axle nut, we will operate the brake, which will center the hub and the shoes in the drum, which is part of the wheel. And then before we tighten it, that way I have a chance. If you tighten the axle nut up first, these might not be centered right. You won't get full braking capability. So you want to put these on before you tighten the axle nut, operate the brake so that they'll center themselves, then tighten the axle nut. So see, that wasn't that bad. Springs are intact. Everything looks good. Okay, and before I actually put this back in the wheel, I'm just going to clean that drum one more time. I take it outside and spray it down real good with some brake clean. Make sure that's real good and clean. But there you go. There's our new shoes, and this should allow us to have some brakes. Okay. So let me go ahead and clean that drum one more time, and we'll come back and we'll fit this up. All right, so I got the drum and internals here as clean as I can get it. So now we'll just put these brakes back together. Twist our arm. Oops, wrong way. Twist the arm to allow the pads to come back in a little bit. In there, put our nut back on. I should point out this nut actually has hopefully you guys can see this. This nut actually has a raised lip portion that'll sit in here and help keep the drum centered also. And yes, in case anybody's looking, I know that the tire is all dry rotted, cracked, but for me it's an original tire, and I want to keep it that way because this bike will never see any real road time per se. It'll mainly just go to shows and stuff like that. It's never going to see any real road time. So tighten that nut up. Now when that spins nice, that catches nice. All right, there we go. So now it's ready to reassemble. If you notice here, this little protrusion is what holds the brake plate in place when it's on the bike. So if you come over here, you will see, hopefully, inside of here, this little channel. That's where that has to go. So when you're putting that wheel all back in there, you gotta make sure that that little tit there goes into that channel. That holds the brake plate in place and allows the wheel to spin around it. So then we'll hook everything back up, hook our chain up, hook our brake rod up. We'll operate the brake. Then we'll tighten up our axle nuts, and we should be good to go. So let me go get set up over here, and we'll get this wheel back in. All right, I got the wheel mounted. I got that tit to go in this little channel there. The nice thing about the way this bike is set up, you don't have to mess with your chain adjustment to remove the wheel. I left the axle pieces on this side. I had to take this side off, of course, to get the drum out. So the way this works, this piece is like will go in here, and that will ride in that channel. So I'll have to pick the wheel up and get that part to slide in. There, like that. And that will go right up against your chain adjusters on both sides. put this nut on here. Now, like I said, I'm not going to tighten it up, although I'm not sure that it matters. Okay, you do want them both tight up against their chain adjusters. I'm going to throw my gloves on quick to mess with this chain. See if I can get this chain to feed back up here. All right, like that. And let's see if we can get our master link to go back together here. And of course, as per usual, when you're trying to do something on camera, it never quite works out right, but as soon as you get the camera out of the way, everything is fine. So chain popped right on. I put the master link on. Make sure you always put the master link on the right way. The closed end should be in the direction of rotation. All right, now we want to hook up our brake rod. So we're going to push the brake pedal forward. Get the brake arm to come up. Get that to go in the hole. You guys probably can't even see what I'm doing. But just trying to get the, there's no good angles here. Trying to get the brake rod in the hole, which I've now done. And then we put our little wing nut on here and we'll tighten that up. Okay, so our brake works properly. So, get this all tightened up. Not much to see at this point. Okay, keep going. You can wind this for quite some time. So once I get this set, I'll bring you back once again. Sorry guys, there's not a great way to show some of this stuff with all these panels in the way and whatnot. But basically I'm just trying to get the brake, like right now the brake's not doing anything. So I'm going to wind that on a whole bunch. And of course you can only do like half a turn at a time. So let me get that set, I'll bring you back then. All right, so I got that initial adjustment made, got all slack out of it. And when I press the brake, it now actually operates. And before, I could still spin this wheel. And now I can't spin it at all. So I think we will finally have some brakes that work. Probably have to do some little bit fine adjusting to that after I get it on the road and these nuts tightened up for the axles, but for now it's a good start. Put a couple more cranks into this. Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, and I can't spin the wheel. So, all right, so now that I got that set, let me figure out what size I need here. So here's my socket. Make sure it's pressed up against the chain stops. Hold the brake. Tighten up these axle nuts. Okay. And I'll do this side. Axle nuts are tight. Oh yeah, I got good brake now, which I didn't have before. All right, so that's it. We solved our rear brake problem. There's no point in you guys watching the rest. I'm just gonna put all these braces back on, put the fender back on, get the bags remounted, and the weather might even be good enough today to take this out for a quick little test ride, see how the brakes are. If so, I will bring you guys back and show you the test ride. Thanks for watching, and get out in the garage and work on something. Well, that was a successful test ride. Rear brake is working good. So I can at least now bring her down to a stop safely. So you hear she just purrs along, man. Listen to that idle. I shut the fuel off because I like to run the carburetors out of gas when I'm done. But yeah, she runs good. And now she actually stops, at least with the rear brake. I'm sure the front brake is having the exact same problem. But yeah, she just purrs around, and there she goes. She's running out of fuel. So that's what I like. I like to store them without fuel in the carburetor when I can. But there we go. We got to go out for a little bit of a ride. I don't want to go too far because, you know, honestly, I don't have a plate for this. So luckily I live out here in the kind of out in the middle of nowhere where people don't care too much, but I don't like to press my luck. So later I'll get it registered, get a plate on it, and we'll take it out for a nice long ride. But at least we got to do a little test ride, make sure brake works, and we're good to go. All right, everybody, thanks for watching, and until next time, get out in the garage and work on something.